Hi, I'm Carmen Wild, and this is Business Without Barriers. The show proving you can break through barriers by bringing humanity back into business. Our guest today is Gary Chapman, a geologist who's worked across Africa in the gold mining industry for the last 4 decades. He's respected as a revolutionary and transformational general manager and the go-to guy when it comes to turning a gold mine into a highly productive, profitable, and sustainable operation. Gary has an uncanny ability to empower his team to be the best and harness synergy within a diverse, multicultural team, leading to accolades such as gold production records, North Mara Gold Mine President's Award for Corporate Social Responsibility in 2014, as well as Best Large Mine, an unbelievable accolade considering the mine's troubled history. The construction of Twangisa SARL in the Eastern DRC, where he delivered an operable mine in October 2011 on schedule and poured the first industrial gold in the Eastern Congo since independence. While his playground is mining, he's a keen photographer and enjoys catching trout and hiking. This absolutely can-do mining giant with a heart of gold has tried to retire 4 times, but the thrill of doing the so-called impossible keeps pulling him right back. Gary's rare style of leadership breaks down the barriers and boosts bottom-line results in spectacular style. Gary, a very, very warm welcome to the show.
Thank you, Carmen.
So you've been in some harrowing, even life-threatening situations on the job. Yet you're one of the most optimistic men with an incredible sense of humor. So tell me, how do you do this? How do you stay so upbeat?
Well, really, when you look at it, you can't be in charge and not have faith that things are going to come right and that you're doing the right thing. Mm-hmm. If you don't believe in yourself, who else are you going to believe? And you're the only one that can change you. So, and the other thing too, it's not forever. It's not personal. No, but the fact that something's gone wrong isn't a personal insult to you. It's something's gone wrong that needs to be fixed. And if it's within your power to fix it, well, then you must fix it. Or within your team's power, they must do it. So I optimism because I must. And besides, being a pessimist is terribly boring.
and you see, there's the sense of humor, and that combined with the optimism is just a killer combination. So you've lived in quite a number of parts across Africa. You've lived in the Wits gold mining town in Johannesburg, Ghana, Eastern DRC, Tanzania, Burkina Faso. What have you learned to appreciate about Africa?
It's a very good question. I honestly believe that I am an African. I don't look to anywhere else. In fact, I told people when they wanted to transfer me, when I worked for Barrick, that I would not work anywhere outside of the African continent. What I've learned about people is that if you treat them, and I don't want to use the phrase that, if you treat them as you want to be treated, because that assumes everybody's the same. What I've learned about people is they're just like everything else. They're all individuals. And you need to understand the person. So when I go to a mine, one of the first things I do is to actually talk to people. What is your name? Do you have a family? Okay, and this name story that I mentioned came up many years ago. I was doing a course at Imperial College, and it was on evaluation, financial evaluation, but I got a good HR thing out of it. And that was the lawyer that came in and stood in front of a class of 30 of us to give us law for prospecting and mining, what you should watch out for. Like, if the prospecting license has to be signed by the chief's brother-in-law, then there's possibly a problem here. But what he did that was so impressive was he memorized everybody's name. We all stood up, said who we were, where we came from, and he knew our names. So when I asked a question about anything, he would say, "Yes, Mr. Chapman. Yes, Mr." And the thing there is that your name is your most personal possession. So I would say that that's very important. The other thing to get together with people is to, and I learned this from somebody else, and that's I like picking up things. I like collecting things because is to actually take out your CV and ask everybody in your senior team for a copy of their CV, just a summary. Then you spend an hour or so discussing it. And that takes away the mystery between the new boss and the guys. Because, I mean, when everybody comes, you come with baggage. And that people want to know who are you? What have you done? Where do you come from? And that type of thing. I thoroughly enjoyed my periods of working in Africa, all over Africa, including South Africa. Some South Africans seem to think it's not Africa, but it is Africa. But anyway, that's another long story, but we won't go there yet.
And if you span across all these regions of Africa, what sort of, where's there a special place in your heart? Which region is there anything that you fell in love with?
Well, Ghana was a long time there. I like Ghana because it's very much more structured and ordered, and things work a lot better than other places. I thoroughly enjoyed the Congo, but for different reasons. We were building something. We had a target to create the impossible within 2 years. And that was possibly why I left, because once you've achieved a target that you have done, we were going to pour gold. We poured gold, and then what? Carry on and mine it. No, that was a bit difficult. So that's when I left and went to Tanzania. And I enjoyed Tanzania immensely. The people were good. It was very hard. It was very tough in the beginning. The local community, there were serious problems with them. And when you stop and think about it, they'd been promised things for 20 years or so, or maybe 15, by various companies. And yet the promises had never been met. And now you're dealing with people that I don't blame them. They were cheesed off with us. So yeah, what we did was we started meeting our promises.
Is this the North Mara mine that you're speaking to now? Okay. Yes.
So yeah, we met that, and then we focused on getting our mine efficient, and we got really efficient. We produced a hang of a lot more gold than we had in the past, but it was a mine when I started. The first month I was there, I was going to leave because nothing worked. Then I thought, well, if nothing works, then maybe I should get on and start making it work. How can we do it? So I started systematically going through the process. I like North Mara. I like the people that are there. I like the Courier Nation that is around the mine. They're honest people. They don't like you, I'll tell you. If you don't get a message, they'll throw a rock at you.
So take me into Tanzania. So I'd love to take me into a day on the mine at North Mara. Set the scene for me so I can see those pictures.
A day in the life of the mine. Okay, right. Well, the days in the mine normally start, we work a 12-hour shift, so you start at 6 at the office. So I'd go in, I'd check through what had to be done and the morning figures. If I wasn't really, if things were going reasonably smoothly, I'd go and drive around the pits just to see what was going on there and make sure that the shift was up and things were working and, the guys had started and things had to work. I would then go back to the office and then I would sit with my cup of coffee. There was a ritual that I had every morning. I'd make my own pot of coffee because I drink ground coffee. And that would then I would go through my diary and just meditate a little bit about on the problems that I'd perhaps seen in the pit, or if I'd been into the plant, what I'd seen there. And then we would write down what to do, what we thought, and then I would talk to the HR would come and see me and the financial manager, and we'd have a brief discussion. That wouldn't take more than 10, 15 minutes. Then there'd be a lot of routine stuff that came through till lunchtime, So, and again, I may go and spend an hour or two in the plant just to see how that was going. If the morning figures showed a bit of a problem, I'd go and discuss it with the guys, with the plant manager. The afternoon would be much of the same as it's a problem-solving, short-term, short control thing, just checking on the planning and that sort of thing. Would also be, don't know how to stop that. There'd also be a period where I'd go and spend like plan a day doing planning for the month to run through the mine planning. Saturday mornings were taken with a weekly meeting, 5 slides for each department, and each department had to, in 5 slides, say what happened in the week, what went wrong, how did we fix it, what we're going to do next week, and what are the risks.
Okay.
And that was to go against the monthly plan.
Okay, so what I want to also know of, thank you for that, is we also know that you're on a mine like North Mara in particular, especially like you said, in month 1, nothing was really going down according to plan. Right now in our global situation, there's the words bandied about called business unusual. But when you're on a mine, thousands away, miles away, and there's political unrest, the job is dangerous, you've got hot conditions underground, multiple levels of diversity, and how many staff members were you responsible for at that mine?
If I remember correctly, there were just about 1,200.
Okay, so a fair amount of staff members, and you've got many challenges coming up all the time, but yet you managed to turn that around and still deliver results. So what do you think is the keys when you go back into that situation, month 1, and then where you left it? What was the key to bring in that turnaround?
Well, one of the keys is that you've got to get your senior team, your HODs, your departmental, they've got to be trusted, and you only get trust if you give trust. Okay, the guys must understand they can be wrong. Okay, but if you don't have a team and you don't, and the other very important thing is to break the problem down into manageable chunks. You can't have problems that are, one big problem, the pandemic. Well, nobody can get their arms around a pandemic.
Yes.
I mean, goddamn world. But I can sort the area out in my place, okay? And you sort yours out. And after a while, the problem goes away. And this is what you do. we have a good look at the mine. We see where the choke points are, what's going wrong. We actually put them on a register, and then we set up a little action plan. Okay, and Carmen is now responsible for making sure that the trucks run efficiently and they don't break down. And there are certain things that you as the subject expert would have done and put into the plan. And then we would sit as a team and we'd go through it. And then Gary would say, oh, hang on, wait a minute. Mark over there can help you there because he's got this, that, and the other, which you need to do. He's got a crane that you can use to lift the engine out of the truck. Okay, something like that. So you get people focused on individual problems which contribute to the overall running of the mine. If you look at any process, it's only as good as its narrowest choke point.
I like that.
Doesn't matter how efficient you get, pools of efficiency don't work. You want a stream of efficiency. Maybe not as good as you can get with individual areas, like you can do the world's greatest evaluation, but you can't mine it. There have been mines that should have been sunk that should have been left as geological interesting deposits only, because of the metallurgy is a disaster area. But certainly you want the stream of consistency. If you don't get that, you won't have anything. And then you've got to motivate people as to what do we want. First of all, things that always come up on the mind is, oh, it's about safety. Yes, it is about safety. But safety is a given. We work safely. Nobody comes to work to be hurt. Nobody goes home hurt. Okay, and that was one thing I introduced on the mine, that to drive safety wasn't another bonus, but to show that the mine was serious, because I've seen it here in South Africa, especially, that the accusation is always management cares more about profit than safety. I actually stopped the plant for 3 consecutive shifts to retrain everybody in the use or the handling of the hazardous materials. We had a worker splash lime in his eye. It was powdered lime and he was lifting it with a shovel. And although he was wearing a PPE, it wasn't the right PPE. Okay, his eyes were protected by goggles, but not by a full face mask. And fortunately, he didn't lose an eye, but I stopped and we retrained everybody. And I've done that a couple of times to show seriousness. And there are other things that you can do in the mine. That when the GM comes into the pit and there's problems with blasting, he must do something about it. You've got to be seen. Your presence, you've got to be seen to be there. It's not just simply about sitting in the office. So there's a lot of walking around and looking at things and talking to people and getting to know them. And you don't have friends. Everybody is equal. They're all acquaintances and everybody is treated justly. So the rules that apply to the guy at the face apply to the GM. In fact, they're harder than they are on the face.
So Gary, love everything that you're saying is your typical MBA type classic leadership, which you don't see. And you're speaking as if it's the simplest thing to make happen. How did you do it? Because there's clearly some secrets you have that makes it come so naturally to you, or maybe not naturally, things that you've learned over the years that just works. You've got a diverse workforce. The numbers are huge. They're all in this contained space. There's so much going on. Is the secret communication? Well, what would you pin it down to?
Yeah, look, there is a communication thing, but there's also you've got to be genuine. You've got to be you. The general manager uh, must know where he's going. The people must believe he has a plan, and things are going to be better for them. Okay, if they follow it, he must be a leader. And there are lots of books read about leadership and this and that and the other. And the best one I've ever seen was Ian Thomas. I don't know if you ever read that, but it's the power of the pride. He was a game ranger that went into marketing this, and I tried that at North Morrow. It was about how a pride of lions work, and I set the book around, and it's communication. It's absolute trust in that. No, if somebody is chasing, for example, or somebody is causing trouble with one of your people within the team, the GM must be there saying, "Hey, what's going on?" Your CRO, community relations person, is out in the field, and there's big noise. Go and see what's going on. It may be a bit dangerous, but if you stand your ground and stand up and be counted, most people will give way. But you must take ownership. The buck stops at the GM's desk.
Yes.
Just like with the CEO, with the shareholder, that's where the buck stops.
Absolutely. So what you're bringing up there is, so this show, the mission of this show is very much about breaking down barriers by bringing humanity back into business. And what you've spoken to in terms of this communication and trust and genuineness and fairness, that's all about humanity. Tell me a little bit about what you see the most important human elements of what you were doing that led it to success.
The human elements was simply treating people as individuals. Okay, because as I said earlier, we would all like to be treated. The traditional thing is rule one: treat people as you would like to be treated. No, don't. Treat them as they want to be treated. And that doesn't mean to say you're nice to everybody. Every now and again, there's got to be discipline and there's got to be justice. Not fairness, because I can be more fair to somebody else than to you. Okay, so people like justice. They like to know this is the rule. But if you set the rules, don't go and try and micromanage the guys. You have that, and then it's also a HR catchphrase, tight, loose management. But I honestly believe that's the way it works. I want you to go from point A to point B, but you're not allowed to go outside of these lines. Tell me how you're going to do it. And then make sure that the guys have got support. Make sure the GM has no cliques. There's no friends. There's an open door policy that is necessary. And when your door's shut, nobody comes and opens it. Nobody touches it because you are busy with something. Okay? And then also the things that people like are things like clear objectives. And then when you have at the end of the month, you have a meeting and you have what do they call it? A so-called town hall meeting. I know it is a Durbar or a Tegeska, but anyway, those are local names for things. But what happens is that the GM stands up and he says to his people, because they are his people, he is their leader. He mustn't become their father, because then there's supposed to be sympathy and there can only be empathy. Okay. But you stand there and you tell them that, look, our safety is excellent. Tons were good. The grade was down. But this is what we're going to do to fix it. The gold poured was down because the grade was down. You don't beat the geologists in public. You never discipline anybody in public. They're always disciplined in private. And you don't just, chase a guy unless he's done something really stupid. The classic one was within 2 weeks of getting to Northborough, I fired an expat for making racist remarks. And all the local guys couldn't believe it because it had been accepted before. One must remember your no's. When you say no to something, it sets the boundary to the yes that you're going to say yes to.
Oh, I like that. I like that. So your no sets the boundary to the yes. I love that.
I stole that from somebody else, don't worry. Again, it's important to break the seriousness of a meeting every now and again with a joke. You've got to make sure it's fairly natural.
Yes.
I did do it with one chap who I was training for as a GM, and I said to him, look, you've got to tell a joke or two. So he walks into the meeting. Now I'm sitting there and I'm just, as a coach, I'm sitting on the side just watching. And he walks in and he looks around and he looks at his notes. Oh, joke. And he tells a joke in a flat, deadpan voice, ticks it off, and carries on with it. And that's a true story. But the other thing too is you've got to be, people must realize nobody messes with the team. And that happens once you're successful. Then they will try and mess with the team when you're not successful. Once you're successful, they'll come and tell you, yes, you're successful, but we wouldn't have done it that way. We would have done it a different way. Yeah, we know better.
Who are you meaning when you say they mustn't mess with the team?
Anybody. The team is disciplined and managed by the manager. It's not. Okay. I would not go on to a operator, truck operator, not unless he's doing something very dangerous, and discipline him or call him down and talk out. Okay. I would go to his supervisor and say to his supervisor, that person there isn't behaving. He's doing A, B, and C. Sort him out. Because otherwise I undermine my whole structure. So, the thing too is I don't want a yes man.
Yes.
People must understand if they come to me and there's a problem, I must know about it. And that was one of the things that I spent time establishing when I first arrived in the mine. I don't want to know just the good news. If it's broken and things are going wrong, I need to know about it so we can make sure the right things are being done to fix it.
So how do you get that from people? How do you get them to trust the process enough to come and tell you when it's broken or going to break?
By doing it. When the guy doesn't do it, he gets into trouble. If he does it, he gets a pat on the back.
Okay, cool.
It's either a pat on the back or a pat lower down and a lot harder.
So there were two things that I would love you to drill down deeper. You spoke about justice. Tell me about that in the context of leadership.
Look, in all companies, I take it, in all companies, there is some set of rules, and mine is pretty good at procedures and that type of thing. Okay. Now, and there's legal responsibilities as well. So I can, from other mines I've been at, where the people are prepared to take a shortcut and it's overlooked by their superior or their supervisor. Okay. And that's wrong, because I overlook them here. When you go out and do your inspection, you don't overlook them. That's being unfair, because I'm being fair to this guy because it's only a little mistake. It's not a problem. But it's unfair to anybody else who's being punished or being held accountable. And people must realize too is that they are accountable for their section, whether it's one or two people or whether it's the GM and it's a whole mine. So the accountability needs to be hammered as well. And it's not always about discipline. Maybe it's a bit of coaching. It's like if you've seen somebody doing something wrong, go and ask them, what is the procedure? And he'll tell you, oh, it's this, the other. Now, why didn't you use it? Is there something wrong? Do you want to improve it? Do you know something better? A lot of the time you can embarrass the guys into doing what you think they should be doing. But the GM's got to be seen to be a doer as well as a finisher.
Okay. And tell me about the justice that happens when people, or it could be like the example you gave where the person was, I don't know if it was a racist remark or something of the sort, and they were actually fired. Okay, so that's the justice. So there's very, very clear boundaries. So in terms of the leadership style you're talking to, very clear boundaries, very clear targets, trust engendered, and a culture of communication, from what it sounds like you're talking to.
Yeah, you've got to you've got to show the team that there are rules, and you must abide by them. Firstly, you cannot ignore the rules because you're the boss, and you've got to be loyal to your team. So when something has gone wrong, okay, the GM takes responsibility. We didn't produce gold. No, I didn't produce gold as GM. We did our job, but the GM screwed up. It's that important. When we get our gold, the team did well.
Yeah, that doesn't happen so often, Gary. Yes. Now, what I mean is it doesn't necessarily happen where the leader has the humility to take ownership when it doesn't go well, and then to give the accolades to the team when it does go well. That's a rare occurrence.
I've worked for a couple of GMs that over the years that have done that and inculcated that into my way of doing things.
It's awesome to hear that does happen, and maybe there's part of the mining culture, because it's such an environment where so much can go wrong and severely wrong. Maybe it lends itself more to the boundaries you're talking about and the trust, which is so important when safety is at play. And would you say maybe it's that the mining environment, you have to trust each other so much more and abide by the rules?
I think yes, you have to. And also, the other side of it, one focuses on safety, but you must remember every process that you have on the mine, there's a procedure for. And every one of those procedures is driven by two things. The first one is safety, and the second one is productivity. So what you should end up with, okay, through a process of evolution from the first time the project's drawn up to when it's finalized, is a process that is the safest, efficient way to do whatever you're doing. Okay? So you're driving both safety and efficiency. And the story about safety and paying a bonus, to pay a bonus for safety, you can end up with big problems where people, don't do their safety because they didn't get a bonus last month. Or somebody was hurt, and I've actually seen this in a mine many decades ago, where a guy died.
Mm.
He was hurt underground and he died in the hospital, but he was still registered every day for the clocking in. And that was to get the monthly team bonus.
Wow.
So I have a serious problem with that.
Yes, absolutely. There's the justice again that needs to come in.
And it's about behaving as you'd expect people to behave.
Mm.
The team tells the truth to each other. The team communicates. The team doesn't have to wait for a meeting before you and I have a discussion about a problem that's irritating us. It's like when we went underground at North Mara, we had Burncut to come and be open cast miners. Burncut came to do the underground mine. They were contractors. And I sat down at the first contract meeting, and we went through this, and Burncut was complaining about the mine hadn't done A, B, C, D, E, and so we sorted that out. And a week later, there was another fight about some of the Burncut had done this, and so I got fed up with it. So I said to the guys, all right, every day at 3:15, we will meet for 15 minutes to discuss all the problems,
Mm-hmm.
come up with solutions, apportion the blame, and get on with our lives, including Sunday afternoon. And remember, you only had Sunday afternoon off.
Wow, that's harsh, yes.
What 3 is when most people have had lunch, had a couple of beers, and would like to go to sleep. I think it took about a month. And the guys came to me and, Gary, we're sorting all the problems. You see, the last 2 weeks, there haven't been any problems we haven't sorted. Can we please stop the meeting?
Was it particularly the Sunday meeting that was the...
The meeting every day was fine, but it was the Sunday afternoon.
Yes.
But the same as at the end of the day, you have a mine, all the HODs come in and you have a meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Summarize what has been done during the day, and then to what's going to happen in the next 24 hours and are there any problems. But you have that at 5:30 because you finish work.
Yes.
So nobody talks nonsense. Nobody bullshits. So you get on. This is it.
Yes.
Okay. And then in between time, the GM and the chief mining engineer sit down and we do long-term planning in conjunction with the geologists so that you've got an annual plan, and a GM should have roughly about a 2 to 5 year view, depending on what mine is. So all the time in the background, you are developing a long-term view. So come the end of the year, or whenever your financial year ends and you've got do a new budget and a new forecast, it's not a big deal. The physicals are all there. You've run them a couple of times through the financial modeling, and you can see more or less it's okay. All right. And then you've got your plan A, and then you have a plan B. You always have a plan B. Because despite being an optimist, something always goes wrong.
Yes, of course.
You must have a plan B. You must be ready to have something there. I mean, one of the simple things was like the legs on the conveyor belt that took the crushed ore from the crusher onto the stockpile. They were pushing the stockpile in with the bulldozer and they bumped the leg and cracked it. It was concrete. And we had to, they actually came and glued it together with, being facetious, super glue. But it was some high really fancy glue and carbon fiber. Okay, so they did it. It took 4 or 5 days to do it, and we couldn't take the chance of anything happening. We couldn't use that conveyor. Now I had a stockpile of I don't know, about 20,000 tons of high-grade ore crushed and just sitting on the stockpile waiting for an emergency. So we took it in and we trucked it into the plant under full security. We kept the plant going for that 6 days. Nobody noticed because the gold was there, although the tons were down. Costs were slightly up because we were doing a lot more trucking than we had planned for. But it was all done. So when I phoned the CEO and I said to him, we've got this and this is what we're doing, gold production should be the same and this and this and this. He was, I wouldn't say he was happy, but he had a solution.
Yes.
If anybody were on it. And that's
Yes.
the other thing. Never ever go to whoever you report to and say, I've got a problem. You must have it broken down and have some ideas that this is what I'd like to do. Because you're the one closest to the problem.
Absolutely. So come with a solution, not just the problem.
Well, even half a solution. Come with something that's work in progress. You know.
Do you think it's years and years on the job and being in the trenches and trying different things that brought you to a place where leadership for you is a very natural? You've broken it down into a simple process that actually resolves complex problems. How did this come about for you? Is it just experience or is there more to it?
No, I just seem to, it's something perhaps that I just grew into. I was coached by several very competent managers and not formally coached. I'm talking about the likes of Howard Laycock, excuse me, Louis Wenzel, and the last one that, and I still consult him every now and again, is Johan Buerta. And these were managers that you could respect because of their knowledge and their ability to make people. And then Peter Robinson as well, I learned a lot from him. But then I was chief geologist then, essentially. But he was the guy that said he wanted people to come to work because they wanted to. And that would fix his safety. Now, I'm talking about somebody in the late 1980s, early 1990s, which was an unheard of attitude. So, yeah, I've been lucky, and I've always been interested in the way things work, especially human interactions in terms of that.
Great. And yeah, carry on.
The other thing I've learned too is never assume people understand what you've said, especially.
Yes, absolutely.
Ask me about, there's a guy you're talking to and English is his third language or fourth language. Don't expect him or her to pick it up immediately.
Yes. So how do you go around that? I mean, how would you, are you going to assume they don't necessarily understand because it's not their first language, or do you ask questions to see what their understanding is? How do you pick it up?
Second one, you ask. You don't assume that the guy doesn't know, because maybe it is. Maybe his English is better than yours. He went to the one guy, Tanzanian, was told he had to go to London, a senior man, for a couple of years to learn about English culture. And he politely translated, his reply to the CEO was, "What the devil for? I'm a Rhodes Scholar."
Oh, wow.
So,
It's
Um,
put in your
yeah,
place, yes.
what you do is you ask.
Mm.
You know, there's nothing. Okay, you common. You're okay. You're going to go and get that pencil over there and the PowerPoint there, and we're going to do you set up. Do you have any questions? And get the guys used to asking you questions.
Mm.
If they don't ask questions, maybe they didn't understand. And learn to read body language.
Sure. So much of what you're speaking about, Gary, sums up in terms of what I think on your form you mentioned the art of communication, which is so much of the checking in, being present, listening, asking questions, and doesn't come naturally to a lot of people. It can be learned, though. Certainly can be learned, and it sounds. Mm-hmm.
If you want to learn it.
Yes, of course.
I mean, I actually hired Gary Wild, your partner,
Mm-hmm.
come and work at North Mara, and because I wanted the people lifted to the next level.
Yes.
We'd done technically what we could. We'd optimized trucks. We'd optimized the haul road. We'd got everything right. The plant was giving 30 tons more than it was, designed to do. And, it was great. Everything was working. All right. Now we're training people to be leaders, but we don't train them how to use their time. So how are they going to think about leadership and do the leadership thing without being able to manage time,
Mm-hmm.
to manage people? You can teach the leadership thing, but you've got to teach time management with it. Otherwise, what's the...
Absolutely. And I mean, amazing that you had the foresight, even though things were going well, to take it to that next level, to bring in that extra level of mentoring.
Yeah, and the other thing was that people suddenly started to understand how much it cost.
Yes, yes.
And to sit and do nothing at the computer, whereas perhaps if you sat next down and spoke to somebody about over a cup of coffee about a problem, you could,
Mm-hmm.
And that's another thing too, is that we had a lot of hassles with, especially when it comes to big issues, when there's a major crisis on the mind, with people not wanting to make decisions. It's too big for me.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to make a decision. If you're the man on the job, then you've got to make a decision. Or the woman on the job. One shouldn't in this day and age ensure that they're all men. There are some excellent women engineers around. What happens is that you've got to make, even if it's a poor decision, you make it on the best info you have, and you start doing something. It takes away the people's panic. Oh, what's gone wrong? What are we going to do? Run around, scream and shout. Minimize that panic. Get people focused, get things moving, get initial things put in place. All right. And then if the plan doesn't work, fix it. Have regular feedback meeting, fix it. Do this. No, we need one of those. Right. Where can we get one of those?
It's speaking again to the trust. So trust yourself, trust the environment, but make the decision, because no decision means stagnation. It means bottlenecks. So, and I'm assuming you had the process then, if the decisions weren't accurate, like you say, fix it. But the opportunity for learning and feedback and growth, so that the next decision would be better.
Right. You've got to have that, otherwise you don't know what's going on. And this is especially true on an underground mine, where you would actually have drills and you have a book of rules, of procedures as to what you're going to do. There's been a fall of ground underground. What do you do? You set up, you go in, there's a communication room. You set up the communication room and you call the team. And they've got to be there within such and such a time. The first person into that room opens up the emergency box, and in there's everything that you need, all the telephone numbers, and the whole procedure is who do you contact, how do you get it going, where's the proto team or the emergency response team. All of that should be there. And you follow a set of rules. I had a heart attack on one mine up in Ghana. And I was taken to the mine clinic, and I was there within 10 minutes.
Yes.
And I arrived there, the Ghanaian doctor, Dr. Robert, had me put up on a bed inclined at 45 degrees. He put me there, took off my shirt, put all the bits and pieces, you know, those sticky things that
your
chest, pull the hair off.
Yes.
All right, all of those things, and he, you know, to take the necessary measures. And he started a case, a notebook. There's a whole form, and he had a file about, waving my hands around now, 1.5 inches thick. Okay. And he went through that page by page. Sister, it's time to give nitroglycerin. 3 pumps. What is it time? And the other sister noted it down. And that document followed me wherever I went. I eventually ended up in South Africa, in Johannesburg, in a hospital after flying out via Luanda. But the confidence that following of procedures gave me was unbelievable. I knew I was going to be all right.
That's really incredible what you've been talking about, Gary. The two big things that's coming to mind, if I compare to what I see in environments outside of mining, so your businesses where there aren't necessarily the safety type issues, and two big things is lack of communication, so poor communication, and lack of procedures. And a third thing I'd bring into play is the rules of engagement and those boundaries that you spoke about. At the end of the day, it's all a form of communication. So it comes back to this golden rule and or the thread that runs through an organization is that communication. And it certainly sounds like that is, or maybe I can ask you, if you were to pick one most important thing for a leader to do or get right, what would that thing be?
Communicate the truth.
Okay, I like that you've added the truth in at the end of it. Awesome.
You know, the other thing you've got to do is actually, every now and again, people may come in, slam your door shut, sit down and blow up. You should tolerate that for a while. You know, he can't stay in your office 2 hours screaming and shouting. But,
yes.
10, 15 minutes is a lot more than long enough to talk him down. You know, it's the other thing too, that working as an expatriate in an expatriate environment is localization. And in South Africa, we could, you know, we can transfer it into the employment equity thing. Must be seen to work, and it must be sustainable.
Yes.
There should be no window dressing. Now, when I left the Congo, half of my HODs were local. The HR manager, she was local. The CR manager, she's local. the environmental manager, and there were local guys that were doing the job.
Mm.
The
So,
Met manager was local.
yes,
He'd
okay. So, which is
and
one of the questions I wanted to ask you. Sorry to
yeah,
interrupt you. You've been an expat in all these countries, and I mean, running business in your own country is tough. Being a visitor and experiencing business in a different country, well, brings a different set of conditions. So, along the lines of what you've been saying, what's that secret when you the visitor, yet you the GM? What's the secret to bring in a local team to success when you don't necessarily understand the culture and you may be seen as the foreigner? Tell me about that.
well, you must make the effort to understand the culture.
Okay.
Again, I quote. I can quote Tarquin. We had we had I'm just trying to think. I get my thoughts in a straight line. No, what happened was that I was promoted, and I was then told I had to act as GM, so I should get to know people.
Mm-hmm.
And the CR manager, community relations manager, took me around, introduced me to people, because it became part of my job to know these people and to know how to behave. We actually set up in Tarkwa I don't know, I can't remember what they called it, but it was to explain the local culture to the expatriates. Even down to having, because it was a whole morning and an hour after lunch, and we would have lunch, but we would have local food because it's a cultural thing. Food is culture. And I remember the one guy got up, South African bloke, and he said, well, if I couldn't get my South African food, I'd get fat on this food. For something that was completely foreign and he wasn't really ready to eat it, he could eat it.
Yeah.
And then he had to learn to eat with his hand, but not his fingers, with his lips with his fingers, because you're eating from a common pot, and that would be rude.
Huh.
All right.
Interesting.
And then
yeah.
when you shake hands, you always shake with your right hand.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You only use your right hand in most of Central Africa, East Africa, West Africa. And when in Ghana, especially, when you walk into a room, you shake the person standing on the right hand first, and you work all the way around.
Mm. So those nuances are so important.
Yeah, well, I've seen senior chiefs, nanas, walk out of a meeting because the GM walked and shook hands from the wrong side. He went to the senior man instead of going through the proper protocol.
So would you say, when it comes to such diversity, one of the ways to break down the barriers is to understand the culture that you're dealing with? Is there other things apart from that breaks down those cultural barriers?
Well, the game is to find out what presses individuals' buttons. When you're talking to an operator and I've done it in South Africa too, underground, as a supervisor, and you say to the guy, why are you here? Well, he'll give you all sorts of things, make a better life for the country. And no, you're here to earn food for your family, put a roof over their heads. Yes, well, so am I. Now we've got, and we always focus on the differences. Look for commonalities between people. Okay. It's very important that the commonality is looked for, because if you don't have commonality, then you're not going to get anywhere. But there's a lot of commonality.
Sorry, I just wanted to, I wanted to just see that I understood you saying that we tend to focus on the differences. What we need to do with so much diversity is find the commonalities. Is that correct? Okay. And when in your scenarios, were the commonalities, the common objectives, the mission, the job at hand, what did you find to be commonalities generally?
Commonalities were things like we'd all like promotion.
Yes.
We all wanted, but those that got it were seen to deserve it.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, people were uplifted. It's yes, there were, and then there's also just the normal run-of-the-mill everyday greeting people, saying hello, you know, just
Respect,
being
yeah.
normal, honest, genuine person, and not to take it slowly. People expect you to make mistakes, and you'll get into it. You'll just, you know.
I think it's also you've got such a nice casual demeanor about it, Gary. So I'm sure people felt that energy, that it's okay. It's okay to make mistakes. It's, you know, it's. Mm-hmm.
The thing is that every now and again, the GM must get angry.
Yes, of course. And I'm sure you did do that properly now and again.
Apparently, I go bright red in the face. They said to me, when I go red, then they know it's time to stop.
Good. So you had that barrier where they dared not cross that line. Great. Yeah. In this global crisis that we're experiencing now, Gary, what would your best advice be to leaders right now, where they're facing so many different challenges and so many things coming at them from so many different angles? What would you say? Because there's a fair share of resilience required in the kind of climate we have. What would you advise a leader right in the thick of it right now?
Well, if you look at it, what are the biggest problems we have at the moment?
Mm-hmm.
Because in South Africa, especially, and I think maybe in the rest of the world, people need to see some successes.
Yes.
And we're not.
Yes.
Okay. So South Africa, they should focus on maybe 3 or 4 things. We're going to get these right. And get them right. But it must be visible. We're going to sort out all these corrupt buggers. All right, go sort out a few big ones. And you know, let justice be done. You must understand the strengths and weakness of your subordinates and learn which buttons to press. Some guys you can challenge. Other guys you've got to encourage. But if you're a leader, then you must understand those sort of things. You must listen to people. Okay? You don't have to do what everybody wants, but at the moment too, there can only be one leader. Okay? And that's the guy that takes the responsibility. There can't be all sorts of other things that come in between it. So business, it would be the man that is the leader will pass on. Everybody will know what the targets are. Everybody will know what we're doing and why. And then, I mean, when I got to North Mara, the number of problems printed out on an A0 plotter, okay, that's a meter wide. It was 2.5 meters long. And it was done in a normal, probably, it was a bit big. It was about maybe an 8mm high font.
Jeez.
Okay, so we went through that problem by problem.
Wow.
One day. And we put them into packets as to which problem belonged to who.
Mm-hmm.
And then they went away and they set up which were the most urgent to deal with. And then we sat down as a team and decided what were the top 10 problems we were going to solve in the next month. And we solved them. Because we didn't accept that we were going to be defeated. But that was in about month 3 that I could get people to do that.
I like that. So your message is, look at what the problems are, prioritize the problems, and make sure that you can at least put out some wins, because people, especially right now, we've so much bad news, so much negative stuff. We need a little bit of the good stuff. We need a little bit of the wins. We need to feel like we can win in spite of what's going on. And that then gives you the energy to keep going, to bring those wins each month. Is there any? Well, exactly.
Business.
You got to keep going. Absolutely.
Yeah, but I'm setting it up from scratch in South Africa. So,
the nice thing for you is, even though you're setting it up from scratch, you come with all this amazing experience, so you know what works, which is amazing.
I've got a partner
who
also knows how things work, so we, it's all part of growing something bigger and better. And anyway,
I look forward to hearing all about it, unless you want to give us a piece of what's coming.
No, we've, it's a bit frustrating, because going from where I could manage everything, I'm now part of a consulting firm.
Yes.
So I will go out to different mines under their banner, which is fine. I quite look forward to it. But the thing is, being GM, you could make things happen. Now I've got to ask for things.
Now you've got to influence up. Different scenario.
At the moment, it's going quite well in terms of managing the manager, but it won't always go that well.
Yeah. Well, knowing you're going to learn how to fulfill that role. And before you know it, they'll be asking you to be the GM. So that's how you tend to roll.
I am the GM already, but I'm the only employee in South Africa.
That's quite a difference from 1,200 staff members. You're it. So Gary, tell me, what would you say has been one of the most magical moments in your life? If you were to scan your life, and in any part of your life, I mean, this can be personal, this can be any. What would you say was one of the most magical moments?
The birth of my children. That, to actually see the future. And to be able to hold it.
Ah, beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah, no, that would be it. Work, there were lots of moments. Some were not magical, and others were even more not magical.
Yet you turned them around, and you got good results. So,
sorry. No, and in the Congo, we even had the German ambassador on site.
Yes.
And we had Ashley Judd. She came to how we were mistreating the locals.
Oh, okay.
Very upset when she found we weren't.
Proven wrong.
Yeah. But no, there were some interesting times, and there were other times where, yes, we had to keep ourselves disciplined and watch the ramparts, as it were.
Absolutely.
Head office is coming.
Yeah. As a final message to those listening, what would you want to share regarding creating a business without barriers? breaking through those barriers to create the opportunities, what would be a final message you'd want to share?
The supervisor manager must understand his people. Okay, he must understand that they are individuals. He must learn what buttons to push, and he must support them. Okay, people are entitled to make mistakes, hopefully small ones, and not that often. All right, but they mustn't make the same mistake twice. Maybe they can, but they must know they have the support of their manager. And they must know that nobody else is going to mess with them. And they must be shown the respect. When you look at the guys that are doing, if they're not working, you don't take it up with the guys on the shop floor. You take it up with the supervisor. When you dish out praise, you praise the supervisor. The manager is there to catch the blame. If he wants success, his team must shine.
Lovely, lovely. The way I'd sum that all up is basically bringing the humanity right back into business, and it's taking the me hat off, what you're saying there, and putting this you hat on. It's about the team. It's about the collective from a leadership perspective. And thank you for bringing such an incredible message. You know, if I think about the environment that you've been in, a tough environment, nothing pretty about those environments that you've been working in for so many years. And yet, for the last hour, the key message that's been coming through from your leadership experience is take care of the person. Take care of the person. Empathize, communicate, understand the culture, know what the commonalities are. Don't focus so much on those differences. And that's such a sobering message, especially right now with all that's going on, for us to remember that at the end of the day, let's just remember that we're human. And at the end, we all actually just want the best for ourselves and our families and the community. Thank you very much for that message, Gary. Thank you for being this incredible leader that has shown the way and impacted so many lives. I've seen the reviews. I'm fortunate to know what you're like in those trenches, and an incredible leadership style that you bring. So that big heart, in spite of that side where you don't mess with Gary, don't mess with him, but there's a big heart there. And thank you for that.